Thank you, Praveenji. It's always a pleasure to be in ICN events. ICN has created a tremendous platform for the Indian chemical industry to come together through a series of these events. It's been our honor to be a part of the ICN network. Today's session, we will try to make up for some of the time that all of you are trying to catch up from the morning session. We have a focused discussion on a very critical topic, precision agriculture. In a lot of our work globally as a consulting firm, we are seeing precision agriculture emerge as a major priority for everybody in the agricultural value chain, for the crop protection chemicals companies, for the fertilizer companies, and for the seeds and the agri-produce companies, as well as later in consumer products companies. So the entire value chain is focused on precision. We will discuss that topic today. The format of this, we will go through one question that we've aligned around with each of the panelists, and that will drive our discussion. I'll start with a question to Mr. Sharma. Mr. Sharma, I think the first question really is, if you could talk a bit about the challenges in today's agriculture, particularly, if you're saying we have to move towards precision agriculture, today we are imprecise. So if you could throw a lens around that, and particularly talk in the context of MRLs in the Indian context, how they are set, and the challenges around that.
Okay, thank you. Just in the pre-lunch session, you have seen that lot of presentation and discussion that in spite of using the agrochemical umbrella pesticide, still we are losing a lot of crop, about 2,000,000 ton of the agriculture produce because of various insect and pest. So the pesticide play important role for the plant protection. And since the pesticides are toxic, they are poisonous, so they should be used judiciously and scientifically. So once the bioefficacy data is generated, means that that particular pesticide is used on that particular crop to control that particular insect and pest using that application of the pesticide and this number of the application. So that is basically the good agriculture practices that should be followed by the farmers. So once the bioefficacy data is generated, then what is the residue left when using that particular pesticide on that particular crop? The crop may be the two different types. One is multiple picking crop, one is the single harvesting crop. For example, chili, tomato, brinjal, they are the multiple picking crop where the application of the pesticide and harvest is very short. And single harvesting crop, just like rice, wheat, sugarcane and apple, etc., where application and harvest time is little bit more. So the point is of the multiple picking crop, for example, the vegetable, they are the matter of concern, where that residue is likely to be higher. So once the residue trial is conducted, then what is the residue left at the time of the harvest, that is analyzed, and we have to see whether that particular residue left is safe or unsafe to the consumer. That is the most important point. Then we have to perform the risk assessment of that particular pesticide on that particular crop. So that we have to consider what is the ADI value of that particular pesticide, what is the residue left at the time of harvest, and what is the food factor which we are consuming for this risk assessment. So if a consumer is consuming that particular commodity, how much he or she is consuming that particular pesticide. So that on that basis, that risk assessment and MRL is performed. And once the MRL is performed, then it is recommended to the farmers that if you use this pesticide using this crop, using this stage of crop, and this waiting period, means application and harvest of the crop, that is very, very important. The waiting period should be respected so that the residue which is left at the time of harvest should be less than the maximum residue limit. So that is, for the farmers. And suppose that particular commodity is moving in international trade, what is the, if we violate our own MRL, then it can be easily rejected by the importing country. This is very, very important. Suppose our Indian MRL is 0.1 ppm and importing country MRL is 1 ppm. If our residue is 0.2 ppm, but they are lower than that MRL of importing country 1 ppm, but they can able to reject because we are not following our GAP. So our GAP should be respected, our MRL should be respected. So that will be overcome the trade barrier, that save the environment, that save the, that will in the interest of the consumer safety. With this, all this point has to be taken into the consideration so that the commodity which is harvested or traded or consumed should be safe to the consumer. So that is related to that how the MRL is generated. Now the issue is in India we have more than 550 crop. And only the company have come only for more than 80 or 90 crop because they are commercially important. So whatever money they are spending for the registration, for research work, they have to see the return. But what about rest of the 450 crop? Who will take care of that? Because no company is coming forward. Who will give the plant protection umbrella? If nobody is giving, the farmers itself use the own pesticide or recommended by the dealer. You can use this pesticide, you can use this mixture of pesticide. So the government, even at the international level, codex level, crop grouping has come. So that various crop for one particular commodity is grouped for example, cucurbits, one representative cucurbits. If that sufficient data is there, that can be extrapolated to rest of the 15 or 20 other crop cucurbits. The codex has come with the, this crop grouping. Last year, we have submitted our data on cumin of one particular pesticide. Cumin is a seed spices. So because of this codex has come with the crop grouping, so only we have submitted only on cumin. The codex has given the MRL for all the seed spices, means more than 20 seed spices. So that is the advantage of the crop grouping, that will save the money, that will give the proper plant protection umbrella, that will be facilitate the export. Similarly, in India also, that in 2016-17, a committee was constituted for this crop grouping. That crop grouping is already approved by the registration committee, but it needs implementation. So I think that is the point which needs to be done on the priority basis to overcome this unapproved use of the pesticide. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. That was very enlightening. Dr. Puri, maybe building on what Dr. Sharma said, if you could add on to specific ways in which precision agriculture should evolve in India, and particularly how the pesticide industry or the crop protection industry should evolve precision agriculture, that will be very helpful.
Thank you. If I start from, do we know what the genetic potential of the crop is? We just assume that the crop is whatever we are putting in as fertilizer is going to give dividends of the output. Now, if you look at fertilizer itself, now nearly 45 to 75% of nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium is lost and impacts the groundwater contamination, or it decomposes into the air. We heard that in the morning. And this has been happening for a number of years. So precision fertilizer is basically designing the fertilizer based on the soil requirement and the crop requirement. So it's a basically soil and crop specific fertilizer. It's not a generic one, as today most of the fertilizers are generic. It's applicable across, and that's, so we blame the farmers for using urea, which is subsidized. I think somewhere we scientists are gone wrong, because we have not propagated this, that you need to have precision to get higher yields. An overdose of everything impacts the farmer's soil health and his future earning for his future generation. It's only recently that we are seeing that we are talking about soil health. Now, overdose of fertilizer is impacting the bacterial presence in the soil. And therefore, if you see over the years, the soil is becoming dusty and compaction. So I come back to the basic question is how do we then deliver? So this delivery is based on controlled and specific release of a nutrient at a given rate at which the plant requires during germination, during its growth stage, and fruitification. When it comes to pesticide, it's the same story. We really don't know what is the actual requirement, how much of it is actually required, and how much of it is wasted. It's because of overdose also of pesticides is impacting human health, and often our exports are rejected. Now, let's talk about the two technologies which we heard in the morning, of drone and so when you talk about drone and usage of drones for delivering nanotechnology. Now, do you know, we talk about precision and we're talking about drone. Is drone technology going to be precise? It can't be precise by itself. You need AI technology to really know for what segmentation of the field you want to propagate. Otherwise, we will be doing the same thing as in fertilizer, spread it across all over. Doesn't require any crop that you use. It is standard, this thing, 2 bags of urea, 2 bags of DAP, and 1 bag of potassium chloride. Of course, now we have added the other ingredients like zinc sulfate and boron, but it is not specific. Now, when you talk about nanotechnology and its use, then let's look at the plant. The plants are basically, where will it absorb these nanoparticles? It's going to actually absorb from the surface of the leaf. So, which plants have higher specific area of leaf surface and which have larger stomata on that surface? Most of the plants have a higher stomata concentration on the surface below because it is meant for transpiration. So is this going to be precise for all crops? Now let's look at differentiation between crops. There are monocotyledons and dicotyledons. The dicots have high stomata on the lower surface. Which are these crops? Let me give you a rundown of it. Mango, papaya, peanuts, sunflower, tomato, bananas, legumes, custard apple, garlic, grapes, guava, apple, pea, beans, oranges, and cashew nuts. I've just given you a few examples to show that these plants have higher stomata on the lower surface and very few on the top of the leaf. Now, do you think that these will absorb the nutrients? And let's look at the monocotyledons. The monocotyledons are sugarcane, potatoes, corn, wheat, rice, and millets. But here also, there is only about 10 to 20% of these stomata cells on top of the leaf. The bulk is in below. So I question the measurement that we do. The measurement should be that if you are dissolving a nanoparticle in 100 liters, 1 kg of that in 100 liters of water and dispersing it, don't let that water fall to the surface. Put it only on the leaf surface and see what impact is. So this is what is called as precision. And that's the reason why countries like Israel have converted the desert into productive farms, is because they are doing precision delivery of nutrients drop by drop. So a healthy plant would require less usage of pesticide. In 2011, I introduced the concept of neem-coated urea. And it got taken up by the government, thankfully, and later, after nearly 10 years, when the BJP government came in, it got institutionalized. Now, why did I use neem oil? Because for two reasons. For a slow release concept of urea, because the dissolution rate of urea is basically within few hours. If you coat with neem oil, it actually release of urea dissolution is nearly changed by about 2 weeks. And therefore, the farmer sees a higher greenery in his crop cycle, and he sees a better improvement in the growth of the plant. Secondly, neem oil is a pesticide, and therefore, the observations on doing large number of farm trials was that there were less rodents, less nilgai impact, and he had to use less pesticide. So, therefore, the modern trend is going to be the introduction of biological systems. And I think that's a great future for India because we have a very good heritage on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to add one more point regarding that MRL. MRL is, of course, the legal limit when the pesticide is followed using the GAP and waiting period is respected by the farmers. In case that if some residue is above MRL, it doesn't mean that particular commodity is unsafe for the consumer because the ADI value of a particular pesticide and MRL is 1,000 times lower than the acceptable ADI value of a particular pesticide. So there is a perception that if any violation in MRL means that particular commodity is highly toxic or highly poisonous. This is not true and this is unscientific. Basically, it means that farmers has not followed the good agriculture practices as per the label claim approved by the CIB and RC. That is point number one. Second is that how the MRL is derived, that is basically that hazard-based and risk-based assessment. So these two important points I would like to share with you. What is hazard? Hazard means basically, suppose you are sitting on a beach, in a Goa beach, and you are enjoying your drinks on the Goa beach. In the deep sea, maybe 3 kilometer, 4 kilometer inside, there is a shark. Shark is hazard, we know. But when we are sitting on the beach, what is the risk to us? So that is very, very important. Second example I would like to give, we are all going for the morning walk. We are going in the park. If we go morning walk on a railway track, then it is a hazard. So we don't have to go the morning walk on the railway track. So we have to see the rail is a hazard, train is a hazard. But what is the risk when we are going in the park? Similarly, the pesticides have to be evaluated on pesticides are hazard. The issue is European Union, they are following the hazard-based risk assessment. Codex, JMPR, they are following the risk-based assessment. That is the basic difference. That is the issue when the European Union have the stringent MRL. That all exporting country, they are facing a lot of problem with the European Union. Codex, JMPR and all country, they are following the risk-based assessment for the MRL for this. So these 2 points are very, very important, which I would like to highlight that if anything is above MRL, it doesn't mean it is unsafe to the consumer. And secondly, the MRL they are the trade limit. When the commodity is moving from one country to another, either they are looking that importing country MRL or exporting country MRL or Codex MRL. So these 2-3 points I would like to mention here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Your examples were extremely colorful and insightful on the hazard versus risk framing that you shared. And thank you, Dr. Puri, for explaining the various constructs in terms of precision in agriculture. Your contribution in terms of neem-coated urea is obviously a game changer, and we look forward to more such innovations. I do want to summarize the discussion before handing over for the presentation. That when we look at precision agriculture, it is really about precision in chemical usage, in nutrient usage, but also in resource usage. It's about precise usage of water. The other aspect is in India, we are going to be water shortage. We're already water short, but it will get progressively more shortage in the coming decades. So precise use of water, micro irrigation, all of them become part of the precision agriculture theme as well. So when we look forward for the rest of the decade and beyond, agriculture is going to be faced with the residue issue, the precise nutrient issue, the soil health issue, the climate and sustainability issue, since overusage of chemicals and nutrients leads to sustainability problems, and the water shortage issue. The only way for India to sustain and for the world to sustain agriculture would be to become more precise. The European Union already has a stated ambition, not a mandate, of reducing chemical usage by about 50% within this decade. That might not be feasible, but they are on the path to reduce. Chemicals are getting more complex, more potent to move towards the target. We will see similar ecosystem moves across the agriculture spectrum, from technology players, from crop input players, from fertilizer players, and from farmers to more precisely use the resources and inputs that we have. For the Indian industry, it's cognizant to be at the cutting edge of this development. India needs precision probably more than any other nation in the world. Our current level of imprecision, particularly on some of the input usage on urea and so on, is quite high. Our misuse of fertilizers also occasionally tends to be high in pockets. So for us to change behavior at the ground, change the kind of products and the education we have for our farmers is going to be critical to sustain agriculture in the country. On that note, we'll probably summarize this discussion. Thank you, Dr. Sharma and Dr. Puri, for your input.